MNFL, what's happening? What's good? Season 4 in the books, man. Another productive season in the league, man. We probably about the halfway mark at this point. We definitely rocking and rolling. Definitely got some things going on. Playoffs have started. I got about 3 games in out of I want to say 6. So we halfway there as far as the wild card round is concerned. So we're gonna move on towards the divisional round as we speak. But let's talk about these season awards, man. There's a lot of things have changed from season 3 to 4 as far as award winners is concerned. A lot of different stats that are very, very interesting. So we'll get into that real quick, man. Let's talk about who was the MVP, the Offensive Rookie of the Year, Offensive Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Rookie of the Year, best quarterback, running back, DB, linebacker. Let's talk about it all, man. We'll get into it real quick and heavy. Starting off, the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Miles Sanders, as you can see on the screen now, unseated Mr. Joe Mixon in winning the award this year. Miles Sanders, ironically, had a lot of running yards for a team that typically, from the Eagles' perspective, at least in Rail's case, he's definitely more of a passer. Rail's definitely more of a passer, so I was kind of wondering how he was able to run the ball so effectively and to the tune of 2,529 yards, 2,529 rushing yards and 26 touchdowns for Miles Sanders. X Factor, big time talent. They run the ball in Philly right now, ladies and gentlemen. They ain't airing it out. They ain't the air show. So yeah, Miles Sanders wins the MVP award, surprisingly. Followed by Ziggy Elliott. Ziggy Elliott was running up in that regard, but yeah, Miles Sanders took the award home. I guess you can say the not so dramatic fashion. Dan, he's the coach of the year. He wins 14-2, along with Burf 14-2 as well. They both was the 1 seed in AFC and NFC respectively. So yeah, so they are top seeds. They're waiting on their winners of the wildcard round. But yeah, so let's move over to the AFC. Let's talk about also player of the year. So Joe Mixon still holds the crown in that regard. The Bengals didn't make the playoffs this year after winning the Super Bowl last year, ironically. They ended up going 7-9, so that was a little bit of a downturn or a letdown for the Bengals. But Joe Mixon still did his thing. Joe Mixon had 2,224 yards rushing with 19 touchdowns. So yeah, he definitely put in work. Like I said, Sanders put in a little more work this year than Mixon did. They're edging him off MVP, but it's still a running league. I guess that's the bottom line. I guess that's what I'm driving home. It's still a running league. Because you look at it like Mixon, for the AFC especially, the Mixon, then Dobbins, then Chubb, then Taylor, then Justice Hill, then Geist, then Gordon. So yeah, it's definitely still a running league, man. For all the offensive players in a running wall, running backs for the top 7. I mean, what can you say? But yeah, so moving over to the NFC, no surprise, Miles Sanders. He already stats on, he already had 2,500 yards and 26 touchdowns, over the course of the season. So he's definitely balling, which is ironic that both players here, neither one of those teams made the playoffs. Very wild. 8-8 Eagles and 79 Bengals. They took home a lot of hardware, but they didn't make the playoffs. Interesting enough, behind the production of those guys, they didn't make the playoffs. Weird, very weird. All right, so let's move over to Defensive Player of the Year at the NFC. Keanu O'Neal for the Falcons and Mr. Ooby Dooby. Yeah, Mr. Delay Fade Kagi himself. Keanu O'Neal had a great season defensively this year. 76 total tackles, 37 solos, 7 tackles for loss, and 12 picks. I think that's really did it. His 12 interceptions from the safety spot. Yes, Keanu O'Neal was definitely out here doing his thing, man. Definitely doing his thing. Moving over to the AFC. The Bengals yet again on the books and they on the map. Jesse Bates, he amassed 76 total tackles as well. He had 49 solos, 8 tackles for loss, and 7 picks. So yeah, Jesse Bates out there doing his thing for the Bengals. But yet again, I'm just tripping off the fact that Mixon and Bates are both, garnering high awards, but the Bengals didn't make the playoffs, man. I'm just wondering what happened. Is it that Super Bowl hangover? You get that Super Bowl schedule, playing that first place schedule. I think he played the first place schedule this year. Did he win the division last year? I'm not sure. Or was he a wild card team? Regardless, it's definitely an upset, in my opinion, that the Bengals, after coming off a Super Bowl win, team should have got stronger. They didn't go back to the playoffs at all. It's weird. Alrighty, so let's move over. So we had the defensive player of the year. So let's start with the offensive rookie of the year. We'll go to the AFC first. We'll do Ben Jones. Ben Jones is running back for the Dolphins, who are the 1 seed. He only rushed for 593 yards and 9 touchdowns. I think he's the secondary back to Breida in Miami. So yeah, but those numbers were good enough. I mean, 9 touchdowns was good enough to win the AFC award. Moving on to the NFC, Rashard Weldon for the 49ers and Theron, he actually had a big year. He was a lead dog. I guess he let Mostert go in free agency and decided to go to a different back. And Weldon did his thing. He had 1,809 yards rushing and 28 total touchdowns. So yeah, man, and that edged out Mr. Matthew Randall, who's the #1 overall pick for the football team. Just think about that. We just knew he was going to win the award, and the way he was doing things hot and heavy to start the season. But Matthew Randall got edged out by Rashad Weldon. Interesting. All right, so defensive rookie of the year, we're going to go over to Mr. Tyree Ashmore for the Vikings. Now the Vikings defense, man, they had nothing to sneeze at. I tell you, man, they got a lot of ballers out there. Tyree is he's a free safety for Burf. He had 40 total tackles. He had 5 tackles for loss and 10 interceptions. So yeah, he definitely did this thing out there in Minnesota. Over to the AFC, we got Mr. Miles Stanley. I think I talked about Miles Stanley in the rookie review for being a high draft pick for the Texans, and they ended up being 9-7. They ended up being the wild card round. They ended up beating the Browns first round. Ironic enough, they were left for dead halfway through the season, and they somehow or another made the playoffs and got a first round victory. So. And Miles Sanders looked like he's one of the catalysts for that defense. He has 49 tackles, 7 tackles for loss, 4 interceptions in a sack this year. So yeah, he's definitely doing his thing out there. So I'm curious to see what his developments will look like at the end of the season. Alrighty, so moving over now, we're going to go to best quarterback. AFC Justin Herbert. Chargers were 9-7 this year. They're in the playoffs. They played the Jaguars first round. He had 4,649 yards passing, 44 touchdowns, and 25 picks. And I'm going to say, just a brief caveat, if 10 or so interceptions I had from throw out of sacks didn't happen, I'll have less than 25 interceptions, just to let you know. I just have those shade at EA for that because their animation's garbage. But if I didn't get throw out of sack animations for interceptions, a lot of times I have less than 25 picks, just saying. So he edged out Tua Tagovailoa from the Bengals, who got traded halfway through the season from the football team to the Bengals. So maybe that was the issue. It was a quarterback. He didn't trust Burrow, who took him to the Super Bowl, and they didn't. And they ended up not making the playoffs. So interesting enough. So over in the NFC, best quarterback was Tyree Jackson. For the Panthers, Jokey got a 12-4 record, but unfortunately took a loss to the Packers first round in the playoffs. But Tyree had a good year. He had 4,403 yards passing, 49 touchdowns, and 35 picks. So yeah, man, Tyree definitely doing his thing. Added out in the NFC South, and it's interesting enough, he took a flyer on Tyree and got rid of Teddy Bridgewater and decided to develop Tyree, and it looked like it paid off for him. So at least gonna get a Pro Bowl and the best quarterback award out of that. So yeah, he's doing his thing so far. All right, so let's move over to best running back. Best running back, Miles Sanders, no surprise here. We ain't got to belabor that point. But so the AFC is ironically, this is the twist here. Ironically enough, the Mixon didn't win the best running back award in the AFC, although he won Offensive Player of the Year. So I don't know how they quantify that. So let's just look at this real quick. We're going to say Mixon stats again were 2,529 yards, 26 touchdowns, right? J.K. Dobbins had 1,711 yards rushing, but 26 touchdowns. So how does that work? Like, did you factor in receiving yards? I didn't pull that stat. You factor in receiving yards. Did J.K. Dobbins have more receiving yards than Mixon? That's how you ended up with the award. But it's the rushing award. It's the best running back. So I don't know. It's weird. But J.K. Dobbins took the award from Mixon. Mixon fit in second place. Interesting. Very interesting. All right. So we talked about the NFC already. So we'll move over to the best wide receiver for the AFC. It was DJ Chark. Yet again, I think this is 2 times in a row that he's won best wide receiver for the Jags. This is the second year in a row. So DJ Chark actually has his little numbers were a little bit down from last year, because I think his numbers from last year, if I got it up real quick, he had 1,500 yards and 1,592 and 20 touchdowns last year. Actually, they're up. So he had 1,729 yards this year with 19 touchdowns. So yeah, he actually is improved on his numbers from last year and winning the board twice in a row. All right, so the NFC, Mr. Emmanuel Hall, he is the winner for Theron. They went 13-2-1. He has 1,467 yards receiving, 20 touchdowns. So yeah, he was definitely doing his thing out there. Run-ups was DJ Moore for the Panthers and skipped over that. AFC. Rico Gafford for the Browns, who is interesting enough got traded midway in, I think, quarter of the season away in the beginning of the season. He got traded from the Saints to the Browns. He ends up second, so that's interesting. Interesting enough. All right, so let's move over to and this is just for B-Man. We'll talk about O-lineman real quick. Trent Brown is the one. He's the one actually the best lineman for the AFC this year. He in his play, he had 665 snaps. He allowed 5 sacks all year from the right tackle spot. So in the NFC, talk about that, is Zach Martin. No surprise there, one of the best guards in the league and has been for a while for the Cowboys. And he only allowed 1 sack in 713 snaps from the guard position. So yeah. So Zach Martin did his thing out there. 1 sack the whole year. It's crazy. Alrighty, so moving over to best D lineman for the NFC. Finally, that man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Brian Burns over there in Carolina. Brian Burns had 46 total tackles this year and 17 sacks. AFC, his counterpart was Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett had 39 tackles and 14.5 sacks. So yeah, definitely put up a lot of numbers. It's interesting, might be a little bit of a default win for Garrett because Caleb Von Cason got hurt back half of the season, and he might have been a guy. And him and Josh Allen, they 2-3, so he might have been a guy had he not got hurt. But Myles Garrett takes it the hard way home again. All right, so moving on to best linebacker. Now, this is just baffling to me. Now, B-Man was on auto for the most of the year, and Jerome Baker still somehow or another gets the award from, and I think this is 2 years in a row. Let me go back and look at the award from last year real quick. Yep, Jerome Baker, 78 tackles last year, and he had 101 tackles this year, mainly from playing on auto, and 8 tackles for loss and 7 picks. I don't understand how they quantify that, because I looked at Patrick Queen and McMillan's and McGilbert and Murray's numbers, and they all comparable or sometimes even better than Baker. But I think the tackles, the overall total tackles, was what edged them out, because I don't think nobody had 101 total tackles above him. So them autos got him the award again. God damn. Lucky mother. Anyway, but so Jerome Baker takes the hardware home for best linebacker. So the NFC best linebacker, surprise move, Leighton Vander Esch. Cowboys 11-5. He had 96 total tackles, 12 tackles for loss, a sack, and 5 picks. So he's definitely putting in work out there in Dallas. So moving on to best DB, NFC is again Keon O'Neal. He definitely putting up work. We already talked about his numbers: 76 tackles, 37 solos, 7 tackles for loss, 12 picks. So yeah, definitely getting this thing going on over there in Atlanta. They took a first round exit in the playoffs in dramatic fashion in the first round, but it was a good game though. Definitely a good game with the Falcons, and shout out for Ubi for improving and making the playoffs this year. All right, man. So we move over to the AFC. Keon Crossen for the Chargers made best DB of the year. He had 66 total tackles, 39 solos, 2 tackles for loss, and 12 picks as well. So he was out there balling, followed up by Jeff Okudah and came in second for them. And I think Dante Jackson came in second for the Panthers in the NFC. All right, so wrap it up. Best kicker is Jake Elliott for the Eagles, and the AFC best kicker was Matt Gay for the Browns. So yeah. All right, man. So that'll do for the season awards. We'll talk about the Pro Bowl, and we'll hopefully get these playoffs and done and get into the offseason here soon. Get season 5 kicked off, man. But I appreciate everybody that's been giving their time and their effort and their consistency in the league and playing their games. And we got a new member in the league, Lamar. So shouts out to him. We got 32 members back again. The league is back and fresh, and the Titans and Hood will be back next season. He was on military assignment, so he'll be back. So the league should be nice and full for season 5. No autos, and everybody be playing that game, so it should be good to go, man. So but in between time, man, I'm your host MDC. Like I said, I'll see you guys on the field, and hopefully we'll get some streams going with these playoff games and the divisional and all the way up to the Super Bowl, and then we get some entertainment going, and we'll get those off season. But keep battling, keep fighting, and we appreciate everybody's support, man. I'll holler at y'all later, boys. Peace.